Get it all.
Hey, come on now.
The film opens with John Henry Clayton returning to his hometown of Fowler, Wyoming, after years away. At his childhood home, he has met his stern father, Reverend William Clayton, who breaks the news of his mother's death. Disappointed by John's decision to abandon the family and take up a life as a gunslinger, his father confronts him and severely criticizes him. Noticing that John is unarmed, his father questions him, and John quietly reveals that he has left his violent past behind. Later, he visits his mother's grave in solitude. Sometime afterward, he and his father travel into town for supplies. While most of the townspeople barely recognize him, the store owner, Mr. Parsons, recalls him as the young man who once went off to war. Before leaving, the Reverend asks John to stop by the saloon to pick up some cider. At the saloon, John mentions he's the Reverend's son, prompting thug Frank Tillman to mock him for being unarmed and brag about killing 4 men, though John doesn't recognize him. Local man Dave Turner steps in and runs the thugs off. He praises John for defeating Big Jim Westfield years ago, but John, intent on avoiding violence, simply says he's not looking for trouble and walks away. Reverend Clayton explains that James McCurdy, a wealthy businessman, is hiring men like Frank and even gunslingers like Dave to force farmers off their land for railroad expansion. He wonders if John's return is tied to this conflict, but John firmly denies it. Later, John is seen chopping trees to clear a field his mother had always hoped to finish. That night, the Reverend urges John to attend church, hoping it might steer him back to faith and away from violence. But John dismisses the idea. The next morning, while his father heads to the service, John stays behind, working in the field. After church, anxious townsmen gather to discuss hiring gunmen, alarmed by the sheriff's sudden disappearance. Reverend William firmly opposes the idea, insisting violence will only worsen things. He assures the townsfolk he's contacted the U.S. Marshal, but they respond bitterly, doubting the law will help the poor. Meanwhile, as John works in the field, he's surprised by a visit from Mary Alice, his former love, who's heard he's back. Mary Alice reveals she's been married to Tom Watson for 8 years and has a son. She admits she waited for John but eventually had to move on. Meanwhile, in town, Frank and his gang target Daniel Peterson. And when he stands up to them, Frank brutally beats him in front of everyone. John sees the attack and calmly intervenes, asking Frank to let him take Peterson home. When taunted, he simply replies, "Nothing."
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Nothing.
Frank backs off, and the townspeople help carry Peterson away. That evening, John's troubled look over dinner shows the weight of what he's seen. John opens up about the war, admitting that seeing good, God-fearing men die shattered his faith and made him question God's existence. His father, upset, accuses him of choosing that path, going to war to kill. The next day, Dave, Frank, and their gang show up at Peterson's farm. Peterson, armed with a shotgun, refuses to back down, but Dave calmly warns him to consider what would happen to his wife and children if he were killed. As Peterson begins to lower his guard, Clyde, one of Frank's men, suddenly shoots him dead. Sneering at Dave, Clyde mocks him for talking instead of killing. Without hesitation, Dave shoots Clyde and dares the others to make a move, but no one does. After Peterson's funeral, the townsmen offer John $200 for protection, but Reverend William firmly refuses on his behalf, insisting John has left that life behind. Meanwhile, Dave reports Clyde's actions to McCurdy, who is unfazed and pleased that Peterson's widow and 2 other families have agreed to sell. He praises Frank's brutality, but says he still needs Dave in case John fights back. Back at the farm, John is clearing the field when a heated argument breaks out with his father. John accuses his father of secretly wishing he had died instead of his brother William, but Reverend Clayton firmly denies it. Meanwhile, Frank and his gang try to threaten Mr. Chadwick, only to be ambushed by townsmen. One of Frank's men is killed, and the rest, including a wounded Frank, are forced to flee. Suspecting a traitor after their plans fall apart, Frank quickly executes one of his own men. Meanwhile, John visits Mary Alice, and they reflect on the past. Before he went to war, she gave him a red hair ribbon, asking him to return it if he still loved her. John tells Mary Alice she was right to marry Tom and walks away, unaware Tom has overheard. That night, Tom questions her, but she reassures him he's her husband and she has no regrets. Still, John secretly keeps the red ribbon. Meanwhile, McCurdy scolds Frank for mishandling the townsfolk, warning his recklessness could trigger a violent backlash. The next day, Frank murders Chadwick, and though devastated, Chadwick's widow sells the land to McCurdy, vowing to spit on his grave when justice is served. Meanwhile, as John and his father shop in town, Frank and his gang arrive, cutting the line. Frank purposely spills his drink and publicly humiliates John by making him clean it up. John reluctantly obeys, but as he walks away, the gang ambushes and savagely beats him.
Somebody help us!
His father is held back, pleading for help as bystanders look on in silence. Mary Alice tries to intervene, but Tom restrains her. When the attack ends, she breaks free, declares John her friend, and rushes to his side. Mary Alice and the Reverend help bring John home. Meanwhile, at the saloon, McCurdy takes advantage of the situation, convincing Tom to sell his land and move his family away from Fowler and from John. Tom agrees. The next day, Dave visits John and urges him not to seek revenge, saying that though they've never met, he considers John a friend, connected by their shared experience in the war. John calmly assures Dave he's not looking for trouble. Days later, he attends church, moving his father to tears. After the service, Mary Alice greets him, but Tom interrupts, shoving John and demanding he admit he no longer loves her. John stays silent and walks away. Realizing John never meant to come between him and Mary Alice, Tom cancels the land sale. He confronts McCurdy and firmly says he's changed his mind. Furious, McCurdy reminds him of their deal and issues a threat. Later, John prays alone in church, joined silently by his father in a rare moment of peace. John admits that after the war, he wandered until settling in Norton, Kansas. One night, a saloon fight broke out, and he killed 2 men in self-defense, but a stray bullet went through a store window and accidentally killed a young boy. The boy was about the same age as John's late brother William, and the guilt has haunted him ever since. Overcome with emotion, he breaks down, blaming himself. Meanwhile, McCurdy and his men show up at Mary Alice's home, giving her 32 hours to leave, claiming Tom agreed to the sale. Desperate, she turns to John for help. John urges Mary Alice to accept McCurdy's offer and leave for Tom's safety. That night, Reverend William pleads with McCurdy to spare the Watsons, but is coldly refused. As he leaves, Frank's gang ambushes and stabs him in a dark alley. Thankfully, townsfolk find him and rush him to the doctor. Later, McCurdy scolds Frank for acting without orders. The next morning, John sits by his father's bedside as the Reverend wakes from a coma. Fearing for his son's life, he begs John not to seek revenge. But John, calm and resolute, says it won't stop unless someone ends it, and this is the only way he knows how. John retrieves his long-hidden gun and picks up another from the store, where Mr. Parsons lends him a rare Lamont revolver, 9 rounds, plus a 10-gauge shotgun barrel. Armed and determined, John walks to McCurdy's saloon, drawing silent stares from the townspeople. Inside, he calmly asks for Little Ned. John swiftly kills Little Ned with the Lamont revolver, then warns the others to leave if they value their lives. Those who hesitate quickly flee. With deadly precision, he dispatches the rest. Sparing only Frank, who runs upstairs only to be shot in the head moments later. As John exits the saloon, he comes face to face with Dave. John urges Dave to walk away, but Dave refuses, bound by duty. As they prepare to draw, John admits the heavy Lamont puts him at a disadvantage and asks to retrieve his Colt from inside. Dave agrees. But instead of returning, John heads upstairs to confront McCurdy. McCurdy stands trembling by the window, gun in hand, but John is faster. He shoots, sending McCurdy's body crashing through the glass to the street below. With McCurdy dead, Dave lowers his weapon, no longer bound by duty, and lets John go. Knowing bounty hunters will soon follow, John realizes it's time to leave town. His father begs him to stay, but John gently promises they'll meet again. He rides off into the fading horizon. A year later, when Mary Alice dies, John doesn't attend the funeral, but a faded red ribbon is found tied to her headstone. After his father's passing, John never returns. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. If not, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. Thanks for watching.